And what you'll see quickly is that we're actually gonna do today like a mix of live demo and a presentation. So that screen on the left side is actually a real Saga device that is linked to my computer with a USB-C cable. So everything you'll see is actually live demo. I'm not cheating. I'm actually doing like live and stuff. Boom. So everything is going to be live. I hope everything is going to work out because I'm in a hotel and the Wi-Fi is kind of limited, but I think it's working well. But yeah, very excited. Thanks again, Chris, for organizing. I am Olivier. I'm a tech lead at Solana Mobile. And we're very excited to finally launch Saga and SMS, which is the tech stack that is running, that Saga is integrating with, but that can also be ported to most Android devices with some work. So the goals for today, like Chris mentioned, understanding SMS, the Solana mobile stack is one of the priority for developers, but also for product owners and like giving people some space for like ideation and stuff like that. Second goal is understand how to build for SMS. What are the tools? What are the libraries, SDKs, etc. And finally, I remember there was when we announced Saga back in like last year in June. Someone on Twitter said, pardon my French, but I was, why the fuck is Solana releasing a phone? And I was like, well, you know, that's a fair question. Like, we should explain why. And so by the end of this presentation, I hope that that question will also be answered, and you'll be like, oh, okay, now I know why Solana is actually building a fucking phone. So we'll see more about that also at the end. Presentation overall should be about 30 minutes. And at the end, we'll keep time for like questions, ideation, also stuff like that. So let's jump right into it. So SMS, the Solana mobile stack, is composed of 3 pillars. And why 3 pillars? It's because when we looked at mobile, we saw 3 barriers. And please, this is not another fake trilemma or whatever. This is, yeah, and very much core to Solana's principle. These are engineering problems that we would like to solve, and all of them, not just one of them. And these are important to penetrate the mobile market. So security, first of all, security wasn't something that was friendly on mobile for Web3. There was no way to store really your seed phrase, your private keys, and no interaction with like secure elements and stuff like that. In the middle, the user experience was pretty poor, let's say. There was really no way like on the web, like on desktop web, to connect your wallet to a dApp and, you know, sign transaction. Mostly it was relying on in-app browsers or in-app custody, which is even worse for me, at least. Like, I don't trust at scale 100 apps from like storing 100 times my seed phrase and stuff like that. That's not scalable. And finally, distribution. We needed like a distribution channel for users to be able to find trust in dApps, making sure that your funds are, you know, your transactions are well used, and it's not like fake transactions that are sent, or people are not trying to funnel your funds and stuff like that. Also, a venue for distributors, builders, to distribute the apps without like the super high fees that are traditional in the traditional app store, the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. And so we needed that distribution channel as well. And so today we'll talk about, through demos, we'll talk about 3 things. For security, we'll talk about seed vault. For the user experience, we'll talk about mobile wallet adapter. And for the distribution channel, we'll talk about the Solana App Store. Jumping right in, seed vault. So seed vault is a secure key custody solution on device for your seed phrase. The seed looks a little bit like it's in prison, right? That's maybe not the best analogy, but it's kind of that as well. Like, let's just hope that they don't become like sentient or whatever and just revolt. But that's kind of the idea. So on my device here, I cheated, obviously, but I set it up already. I have already a seed in my seed vault. You can see on the device that it's mentioned here. It has a nickname. I set up the fingerprint also for the demos. But basically, when you go through, if you already receive your Saga or if you're going to receive it soon, when you go through the phone setup, you're going to set up either a new seed phrase or you can also import an existing one. That's very possible. And everything here will be stored within the what we call the trust zone or the secure element of the phone. We're going to come back to that very soon. Something I wanted to show is thanks to that trust zone, like even Android doesn't have access to like secrets. And so what you're going to see here, I'm going to click on view my seed phrase. Dangerous, right? You could be seeing it, but I'm going to click on proceed. And actually on, so I'm using source screen copy from Genymotion, which is an exact copy of the screen real time. You can see that it came back to what seems to be the settings, but actually on the phone, it's asking for my password. So it's a totally different UI that is running on the phone versus what screen copy can actually copy. Why? It's because the trust zone, which is its own computing unit, can display its own UI, very completely separated from the OS, so that even Android cannot see where you tap, cannot see your passcode, cannot intercept your fingerprint, cannot intercept your secrets. Something I wanted to demo that is pretty powerful, and I'm not going to show you my seed phrase because that's really my seed phrase, one of my seed phrases, so I'm not going to show it. But yeah, just to demo what's happening under the hood is actually simple. So on modern devices, we have what we call a SoC, system on a chip, which is composed of everything that makes the phone run, like CPU, RAM, etc. On the most modern ones, you can have like a super small but separated chipset that we call oftentimes like a secure element that has its own RAM, its own memory, its own CPU, like a small chipset and stuff like that. And so everything is isolated from the Android system. And so basically, that's one of the best way to securely store your secret phrase and your secrets in general. That's actually where your fingerprints are stored on Android. If the OS has a secure element, that's where your credit card are stored, stuff like that. Like very important secrets. That's what Google used. That's what Samsung used. That's what Apple used. They call it a bit differently because marketing, but it's basically all the same technology, and it's been proved as very secure. And so we've just been using this same implementation to securely store your seed phrases. In addition to just store them, it's going to act as a signing service. So we're going to see it next. I want to go through what's the wallet experience is going to be on Saga and on SMS in general, because wallets are basically going to be the intermediate between dApps and seed vault. And so that's the next step. We're talking here about mobile wallet adapter. So similar to wallet adapter on web, we needed a way to connect dApps to wallets and essentially request cryptographic features like getting your public key information, signing a message, signing a transaction. And so all of that is possible using mobile wallet adapter. So let's see, Ultimate, I think I haven't set up. So when you start Ultimate, it detects that you're running on Saga, it detects that seed vault is installed, so you can allow, then you get started. It's going to see already that I have a seed phrase. And so it's proposing me to import my account. I'm going to do it. And then after a little bit of loading, demo. All right. Then we can see my balance. We can see all the tokens. We can see all the NFTs, etc. But here, the wallet, so Ultimate doesn't have access to any of my private informations, actually. They just requested seed vault for the public information, the public key. So thanks to that, they can show my public information, my balance, my NFTs, stuff like that. But they haven't requested the private key, and they cannot actually. Like Seed Vault doesn't provide private keys at all. So that's pretty cool. So that's the second step when you set up Saga. It's installing a wallet or multiple wallets as you prefer, and that's going to be basically the intermediate again between dApps and Seed Vault. Seed Vault acting as a signing service, wallets acting as transaction services. So they're gonna, as usual, like a wallet is gonna simulate a transaction. It's gonna tell you, hey, if you validate that transaction, 0.02 SOL is gonna be deducted from your balance, stuff like that. You're gonna receive that NFT, etc. So it's like the wallets are your security in terms of like anticipating what a transaction does to your wallet and stuff like that. And that's really important to keep that in the middle. And it's also a way to visualize for you the balance, the NFTs, again, all that is not possible with Seed Vault. Seed Vault is just like a simple signing service, and that's it. Wallet setup, that's cool. That's the second step. Now let's go on to, so, on traditional Web3 on desktop, you have like multiple actions. Usually it goes through connecting your wallet. It goes through signing a message, making sure a dApp wants to make sure that the wallet is actually owned by you and you're not trying to spoof someone else. And third is actually requesting or signing a transaction. So that's when you actually send a transaction to the network and when something is actually happening to your wallet per se. So let's go through all of these through these three apps that you see at the top right: Texo, Dialect, and Jupiter. So first one, Texo, all of them are native apps, by the way. So, pretty cool to see. They're all available on the Solana App Store. We'll see it after. But basically very similar that if you are on Magic Eden, right, you can go to My Account, you click Connect. And what we're going to see here is actually mobile wallet adapter. So mobile wallet adapter is open source, but it's also what we can call an open protocol. So any wallet that implements mobile wallet adapter will be choosable by the user. And so as such, it's an open protocol. We don't pick one wallet. I know in the past there was like Phantom deep links. Well, per the name, Phantom deep links were only working with Phantom. And so where mobile wallet adapter is, we think a little better, is that it's open. So you can have, first of all, as a user, you can have multiple wallets installed if you want to, with multiple, network or seed phrase or stuff like that set up. And it's just more open. Like we like competition, and we wouldn't have liked to limit our technology to only one or two wallets. That's why it's open source, and that's why it's open. So here I'm going to select Phantom. Let's pick Phantom because I haven't shown it yet. And it's not doing anything. Cool. Perfect. Demo time, Let's do it again. I was on Texo, right? Yes. Let's pick Ultimate. That's going to be maybe better. Cool. Ultimate is working. Perfect. I should have picked Ultimate the whole way. And so here it just says this protocol wants to connect to your wallet. It's free. There's no fee involved, etc. Do you want to confirm the link? Yes, you confirm. You're connected. And then you can see all your NFTs and stuff. Similarly to what we're seeing in the wallet itself, but it's just a better way of buying NFTs and maybe browsing NFTs and stuff like that. So that's connection. That's the first step. Now let's go through message signature. And I think Dialect is an excellent way to see what's happening there. So when I click Connect Wallet, I'm going to pick your Ultimate again. First of all, always your public information. You want to, like the dApp wants to connect, so you confirm, and then it's asking to sign a message. And so here, what Dialect is going to ask is what you traditionally see on desktop web is signing a message. So it's still free, right? It's just signing a message. Signing a message just make sure that the proof of ownership is verified with that dApp, that website, that whatever. Here, a difference you can see is compared to just connecting, Seed Vault is triggered because signing is a service proposed by Seed Vault, because signing involves using your private key, using your seed phrase. And so here, the system protects again like malicious intents and stuff like that. And so you actually need to confirm with your fingerprint. You can alternatively use the password as well. But here, of course, I missed. Yeah, no, that's okay. I signed with my fingerprint. The transaction was, the message was signed, and then Dialect retrieved my account. Olivier, that's my pseudo. That was an already created account on Dialect, and so he retrieved my account and stuff like that. The ownership was recognized. Dialect can then, deliver some compressed NFTs and stuff like that. So that's a pretty cool example. Last example, requesting and signing a transaction. So here we're going to do a simple swap on Jupiter. Again, native app. I'm going to still connect with Ultimate. Boom, I confirm. So first I just confirm my connection. Then similar to what you do on the website, you enter an order for a swap. And when you click on swap, that's actually the real transaction that's going to happen. And like I was saying, a wallet is really something that acts also as a security for the user, because it's going to anticipate what's going to happen to your wallet. And so without a wallet, I wouldn't know what I would sign, right? I know I would sign a message that would be sent to RPCs and stuff, but I wouldn't know that actually I'm sending one SOL and I'm retrieving like 22.46 USDC. That's the wallet that allows to do that to the user and anticipate that transaction and telling the user what it's going to do on your balance. So here I'm going to confirm against seed vault. I confirm, boom. And then the swap is being performed. And it was successful. And now I have 22 something USDC. That's great. You can see probably on my wallet that the swap was effective. 22. I think I had something in my balance, so 22.58. But yeah, basically worked. It was really fast. That's not Solana mobile. That's just Solana. But yeah, it's great. The demos worked. I'm happy about that. Anyway, so all these dApps, as you've seen, are native, and they can be found on the Solana dApp store. So when you'll start Saga, you won't have all these apps. What you'll find is basically like all the Google apps, like Play Store, Mail, Gmail, Drive, etc. We didn't want Saga just to be a crypto phone because that failed in the past, but we wanted Saga to be like a full Android phone with added features, with added Web3 features. And so in essence, what you'll find, and that is going to be your entry to Web3, is the dApp store. And that's where you'll find the wallets, obviously, but also all the dApps that I've demoed, and more to come, more to download also. I have a lot of apps here that per time limit, I would have liked to demo all of them, but I can't. But basically, that's your entry point to Web3. More to come. There are like things you can claim from the start. There are more features coming. It's explained all there. You can install, you can update. It's acting as a store. So apps will be updated periodically, automatically in the background, stuff like that. It's really like the Play Store, but it's for Web3 dApps. And so that's where you'll find all of the famous dApps and stuff like that. We'll talk more about the dApp store later when I'll show the open source project. What's really exciting behind the dApp store is that actually these dApps are published in a Web3 way. So they are published on chain. So both the metadata are published as NFTs, and also the files, so the APK, the executable and storeable files for Android, are stored using decentralized storage. We are using Airweave right now, but we are looking at expanding to more storage in the future. And so that's really exciting. Why so? It's because it's also paving the future for more features, right? Because the publishing and the querying of the metadata and stuff like that is decentralized. We could see that in the future, we could expand these features to more decentralized applications like DAO and stuff like that, right? Instead of having like a manual curation by Solana Mobile, we could very well imagine that the actual Saga Genesis token or the Saga Pass could be used as a way to vote for dApps to be accepted and curated in the dApp Store and stuff like that. So we wanted the dApp Store to be very well web-free because we had all that in mind. Obviously, setting up a DAO and all that takes so much time that we didn't have it, that we didn't do it yet. But in the future, we'll be looking at this sort of stuff. All right, I'll stop there because that's the end of the let's say the dApp demo, and then I'll dive into open source projects and examples that you can find as a developer, as a builder. So I want to stop in between because that area was more of a product focus, that first part of the workshop. So I want to stop there and see if there are some questions or some ideas or things like that.
Yes, thank you. This was very good. Very enjoyed it very much. We have a couple questions here. Number one is how to publish apps on the dApp Store. Is that already public? How's the process of publishing dApps work?
Yes, it is public. Well, everything is open source. It's there. So it's going to be part of the second part of the workshop. Actually, we'll walk through the open source repo. The dApp publishing tools are also open source, and the documentation is already there. So we'll walk through that in the second part. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. There's another question here. It's more on the line of the user interactions that are required to complete a task. So there's a lot of interactions needed to just log into a dApp. Are you planning to have a user click less than right now? I'm guessing this is more on the lines of, for example, what you were showing here on just logging into a dApp. It took you a lot of context switches and a lot of interactions just to log in and do one interaction. Yeah, how are you thinking about that?
It's a very good feedback that we had already, and that is fair. We are thinking about that in multiple ways. So first of all, you've seen that when accepting a transaction or accepting a connection, the wallet takes the full screen and actually cuts a bit the context. All of them are doing that right now. It's not limited to Ultimate or Soulflare or Phantom. It's because it's possible, but it's a bit harder to do engineering wise. But these wallets could very well pop from the bottom, very similar to what Apple Pay does on Apple or Google Pay does on Android. So these wallets could only take, let's say, half of the screen, not cut the full context, and offer the user like a more seamless way of accepting transaction and connections. That's the first part, is like improving the wallet solutions. Then there is seed vault, because as you've seen, the security is there for good reasons, but at the same time, we heard many applications like games, for instance, where you could have micro transactions. Having to sign with your fingerprint, accept transaction from seed vault every 30 seconds or every minute or so might be a little bit cumbersome. So we are thinking about things there, like maybe having burner wallets that you can use temporarily or with certain amounts of SOL, for instance, or maybe having pre-authorization of funds in a wallet for a certain period of time, things like that. Like we are thinking about maybe sessionizing this pre-authorization, because eventually we don't want users to always grant access to their seed phrase. Otherwise, the security is basically the same as it is today, which isn't great, and which is what one of the problems we wanted to solve. So we are thinking about multiple ways. It's going to take engineering work, it's going to take product work, and then it's going to take like time to adopt. But yeah, I think we could reduce the number of interaction there is, making it more seamless and stuff like that. Definitely an area for improvement. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Nick, I saw your question here in the chat. Would you mind if we take this after the session? We have here a big question from Nick in the chat, but this is a loaded question, so I would like to take it at the end into the Q&A session, if you don't mind, and then continuing on.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Sounds good. All right, let's go into the second part of the workshop, which is a little bit faster, hopefully, because we're just going to show a few GitHub websites, and a few links to apps and stuff like that. So Solana Mobile, we have our own GitHub page, and it contains everything you need to start building for SMS, actually. So I'll very much recommend going there and starting with Solana Mobile Stack SDK, which is basically just a big documentation, but at least all the parts, all what we've seen, but in a more technical way. So there is a link to our Discord. We'll talk about it later, and Twitter as well. But basically, it's explaining all you need to know. What is seed vault? What is mobile wallet adapter? What is this? How to publish to the Solana App Store? Everything is explained. And so what you need to, I think, remember is seed vault. It's only useful. It's nice that you know what it is and maybe how to interact with it. But as an app, as a dApp developer, you don't need to care about it, right? That's only the wallets that are going to care about seed vault because they need to interact with seed vault. You're never going to interact with seed vault directly. So if you're a dApp, which I think most of you might be interested about, like building a dApp or like even from a product or from a developer side, mobile wallet adapter is your go-to. Finally, the Solana App Store, we are planning on making it probably open source in the future as well. We've just been building very, very fast. And so it's very complex because, again, it's partially decentralized, partially not decentralized. And so we might be waiting for the full decentralization before actually publishing it open source because it's a better story and it's also a better form of engagement for our community. When it will be decentralized, people will actually be able to contribute and contribute to the decentralization itself. Finally, there's also a link for Solana Pay if you're interested in integrating with Solana Pay, either because you're a wallet or you want to integrate Solana Pay in your dApp directly. There's a reference implementation as well for mobile. That's the first part I would start with, and then you just go through that, right? You have a link to the seed vault SDK repository. All the repositories are pretty well documented. And what I would say is all of them include examples, fake examples and real examples of that. So for instance, this seed vault SDK, if you're a wallet, it contains a simulator implementing the seed vault wallet interfaces. And so even if you don't have a Saga device, you can build your wallet and test your wallet against that simulator using just an Android emulator. And so that's very powerful because that allowed wallets to actually implement and build for Saga and seed vault before even having like a device in their hands. Finally, there are like reference implementations. So fake wallet app, it's actually a real wallet, but it's just fake because it's not doing, all the things that a real wallet is doing. But it's basically interacting with seed vault and it's showing how to properly interact with seed vault. So that's about seed vault SDK, mobile wallet adapter, similarly documentation. So here what we're going to retrieve, and I'm going to do a demo on the left side, is actually a demo that we call the Hello World, right? Pretty similar to what we've seen in most projects. The difference is it's implemented using different frameworks and protocols. So it's using React Native for as a cross-platform framework. And for Android, we'll find both Kotlin and Eric's Java implementation. And so if you're familiar with one of these frameworks, you can have an example to play with. You can import it directly in Android Studio or whatever. You can run it on your device. And so here, that's what I pre-installed. I'm going to click on it. What it does is very simple. It makes a transactions. Here it's on DevNet, and it's just part of the transaction is associating a payload that you input there, like as a memo text. So super team, I think that's what you said, is awesome. I'm just going to publish. So similar to usual, the intent is going to pop up. I've set up Solflare to be on DevNet already, so I've cheated again a bit, but it's set up to be on Solflare. It's asking me for 0.00005 Sol, which is very, very small. I confirm. The transaction is going to be sent. I hope, because it's DevNet, we never know. I think it went through. We go back to the wallet. It looks like it got published. It looks like we're lucky. DevNet is working well. Transaction went through. It's confirmed. It's finalized, and you can find the text here. So what happened here is we just signed a transaction, associated the payload, just a text, and everything got sent to DevNet. And the transaction was signed again with Seed Vault using Solflare as an intermediate wallet. So all of that is open source. Again, you can dive into examples. KTX is the one I used, and that's a regular Android project. If you're familiar with Android, perfect. If you're familiar with React Native, you'll find it here. So these are the two examples that we wanted to provide. One more big example that we wanted to provide is actually Minty Fresh. So Minty Fresh is really cool. It's an app that allows you to publish your pictures taken with your camera or downloaded or whatever as NFTs. And so it's using NFT.storage as a storage solution, and it's just minting using an NFT using the Metaplex standard to basically put your pictures on chain on a perma storage, pretty much. So Minty Fresh, again, open source, so you can dive into it. It's all in Kotlin, so it's all native Android. You can dive into it if you're familiar with Android. There's some documentation associated with it, like what kind of frameworks and library it's using. There are ways to build it and run it, and even like an architectural diagram and everything. Like that's pretty complete, actually. As well, a demo of Minty Fresh that I just installed from the repo. So here I've preloaded a photo of Berlin because I'm in Berlin right now, and good thing to mint. So I'm gonna type Berlin with love, super team. I'm gonna mint, and similarly to what you've seen before, it's DevNet again, so I'm gonna use Solflare. There are going to be two transactions here. So the first one is to actually upload the image to NFT.storage and associate it with your NFT.storage account. The second one is to actually mint the NFT to which the image was sent or was associated to. And so two transactions to accept. Boom, it was sent, it loaded, and that's your NFT. Here, that looks great. You can see in Solflare as well. Hopefully, refresh. I think DevNet is pretty flaky, but anyway, it's there somewhere. Also, that's the new Kleno collection. Just that's an alpha over there. I'm kidding. That's a joke. I was waiting for Solflare to reload a little bit. And boom, and here you get all your NFTs. That's perma-stored. You can view it on Solana Explorer, everything. And you've seen the speed at which the NFT was minted, the image was uploaded and stuff. Like if someone tells you mobile is not ready for Web3, you can show them this kind of videos or demos or whatever. Because that to me is an excellent competitor to Google Photos and all this stuff, right? It's a different model. You pay per picture that you upload and stuff like that, but the speed at which it does it's sent on chain and stuff like that is actually like similar or even sometimes better than Web2. So I would like to encourage people to promote this kind of usage and think about this kind of also think beyond traditional web and stuff like that. Anyway, so that was Minty Fresh demo. Two more things before we dive into the next topic. I talked about React Native. I talked about Kotlin. Now we have also two SDKs that supports mobile wallet adapter that are published by external community contributors. So the first one from Magic Block, the Unity SDK. So very interesting to video games developer. If you're developing with Unity, you can use the SDK, and that's going to interact with mobile wallet adapter without you having to implement like a ton of logic. Actually, they simplified everything for you. And very similarly, Espresso Cash have made public the Solana mobile wallet adapter to their package. So if you're using Dart and Flutter to build your mobile app, cross-platform mobile app, you can use their SDK as well to transact with mobile wallet adapter without, again, too much work to do. They simplified a lot for developers and stuff like that. So with that, we cover, again, Kotlin, native Android, Java Kotlin, React Native, Unity, and Dart Flutter, which is like 99% of all the apps that are shipping on Android devices today. So we think that was the area to cover, and we made it. So we're pretty happy about that coverage. So if you're using something else, I know Unreal 5 for video games is something that's going to come as well. Feel free to talk to us on Discord or such, because we'll be interested in also having someone from the community maybe building something like that. Finally, that was one of the questions, Chris, you had during the first part of the workshop, how to publish. So very similarly, the CI tools, so the dApp publishing tools are also open source, and the documentation is pretty thorough. So basically what you're going to install is just some NPM dependencies, some node dependencies that are going to, I'm not going to dive into the specifics, but basically these dependencies are going to make you mint NFTs and link your installable Android file to these NFTs. So you'll mint like a collection. That's going to be your company name, for instance. That's going to be like, I don't know, Shadow, or Synesis is actually the company behind Shadow Drive, I think. Maybe not, I don't remember. Whatever. The name of your company, then you mint an app, and per app you mint like releases. So version 1, version 2, version 3, etc. So all these tools are going to help you publish to the dApp store and submit a ticket. The last step is actually submitting to the dApp store, because we wanted user security and trust at the end of the day. And so there are also the policies of the Solana dApp store, which includes pretty much everything that Google includes in their policies, except we scratched out everything relative to payments and like needs to use Google Pay and stuff like that. So we wanted to keep, again, we wanted to have the user's trust and keep the user secure. So we kept some of the big lines of the Google policies, but we removed everything that was relative to having to use a single payment system and stuff like that. So pretty open. Actually, if you want to submit today an app that interacts with Ethereum, totally open for that. That's not limited per policies and stuff like that. So, or PayPal even, or Visa or whatever. That's totally up for you. So that's open source. I'm not gonna dive into it again. I think it's too large maybe to be, and it's also JavaScript and all that. Not a big fan. No, I'm kidding. But as a mobile app developer, I don't think that's the best. So that's the open source examples. That's kind of the end of the workshop. I wanted to dive into Saga just because that was the end of the intro as well. So as you, maybe you remember, the end of the intro, it was a quote from Twitter that was like, why the fuck is Solana releasing a phone? So by now, we've demoed everything that Solana Mobile released in terms of SDKs, libraries, and stuff like that. What you've seen is that Seed Vault is deeply integrated within the system. And the second thing is you've seen that the Solana dApp Store comes pre-installed on the system as well. And so these two pieces, without building a phone, you cannot have. So you can have everything you want in between. So the user experience, mobile wallet adapter, the protocol works on any Android phone, something we wanted to make sure it's understood. It works on any Android phone, like the interaction between a dApp and a wallet, asking for signing, asking for connection. That's open source, that just uses Android native intent system. and we haven't done like something crazy about it. So it would work on any Android device. What we've done with Saga and what shines with Saga is actually the security and the distribution. Security, because Seed Vault is deeply integrated with the secure element coming on Saga, and distribution because the Solana dApp store is pre-installed as a system app on the system. And so a system app per design, per definition, cannot be replaced. It cannot be spoofed. It cannot be anything, actually. And so you have the trust that the Solana dApp store, the apps that are on the Solana dApp store are apps that are vetted by Solana Mobile, or in the future, you know, an entity that curates the Solana dApp store. And so without building a phone, we wouldn't have these two pieces. We wouldn't have solved for these two pieces. And so that's why we wanted to, again, nothing is really a trilemma if you if you invest enough to make sure that you cover everything. And so similarly to the Solana blockchain that can scale with more CPUs, with more silicon, here we needed to build something with a silicon that we were actually handling and that we could deeply integrate with to actually provide like the best experience that we could for Web3. And so that's the actual end of the presentation. That's a link to our website, solanamobile.com. If you have any question, feel free to reach out on Discord/solanamobile. That's pretty much it. That's simple, right? You just need to build for SMS. If you have IDs also, I know under the Discord, there are like some channels like projects, IDs, stuff like that for people to chat, for people to meet also, and people to get excited about building for SMS and Saga. Very excited also. I'm going to end by that. I talked a lot. My throat is hurting. What I'm very excited about is it's not just another tech stack, it's also giving access to something else. Mobile devices, per definition, have sensors that desktops don't have, right? They have camera, they have GPS. You bring them on the go. That's a very different usage than what you do with your desktop, except if you run with your desktop, you're free to do so, but I don't think that's a very good usage of your desktop. And so it brings a ton of new usages also to Web3, which I'm particularly excited about. Like we've seen like Minty Fresh for minting pictures directly from your camera. GPS. Helium is actually using Saga. Helium Mobile, the decentralized network provider, is going to use Saga to map coverage of 5G in the US. So that's these kind of usages that are new and that are decentralized and, you know, Web3 friendly. I'm hoping that we're going to see more and more, and not just, you know, copy pasta of like websites and dApps, because that's cool. A lot of apps are going to do that, and that's cool, right? Because you want to have some shortcuts to your website. You want to have apps that feel more native and stuff like that. But essentially, new usages is also something that we want to create, and Saga and SMS are the perfect platform for that. So we are pretty excited about the launch. Hopefully everyone will get their devices in their hands pretty shortly, and we'll get to experience with all of these dApps and more to come as well. Thank you for listening. Let's open to questions and ideas and everything.
Yeah, thank you very much, Olivier. We have a good amount of questions actually here. Let me bring Nick up to the stage because he had a quite a loaded good question about Saga. Nick, would you be up to ask the question live here? Let's see, going for Nick. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, hey, I can hop on. Yeah, hey Olivier, how's it going?
Hey.
So I have two questions about all the mobile stuff. So my first one is about having websites and the web browser specifically be able to interact with the Seed Vault, making it so a user would be able to just in their normal Chrome or Brave browser on their phone, be able to trigger a Seed Vault interaction so that way they could sign a transaction maybe, but definitely to sign a message that way they could log in without having like an additional wallet installed. Is that possible now, or will that be possible in the future?
Totally. That's why I'm demoing on the left side actually. So that's something I forgot to demo maybe. So that's a very good question. Mobile wallet adapter, totally compatible with mobile web browsers and everything. And so websites, so dApps, web dApps that are compatible with it, they just need to really, it's simple. They need to import the new mobile JS wallet adapter.js dependencies. So just be up to date, actually. That's only what we ask of them. If mobile wallet adapter is detected, so if you're running on an Android device that has mobile wallet adapter and stuff, the connect button is going to show. You can, similarly to actually a native app, you're going to see the same flow of like a wallet that asks for a connection. You confirm, you go back to, in this case, Orca, and you'll be connected. So here I could swap with my wallet connected. I'm not going to do it again, but it will work until the end. Yeah, I'm not going to swap like more USDC today. But...
Cool. Yeah, thanks. That answers that question. And then my second question is about specifically around publishing dApps to the dApp store. So if a publisher or a developer loses that NFT that represents their dApp, is there anything that can be done about that? Like, do they lose the ability to update their dApp from that point on? Is there any like sort of like safety features that are built in so you could like lock the dApp so that way no one else could update it in the future?
Unfortunately, no. These are all these NFTs are stored under the same smart contract. So you really need, as a developer, you really need to secure your key. So when either you use a wallet that exists already that you want to use, or you create a new one. I would encourage actually for using multi-sig solutions like Squads, which actually has an app in the dApp store already. That's pretty awesome. To handle your keys and stuff like that. Because yes, once you create your company, create your app, and you mint all of that as NFTs, your key, your funds, you know. So similarly here, you might lose the right to update at least that version of a company and that version of an app. That doesn't mean you cannot. There could be special cases, right? If you lose the access to that, you could mint another company's name and another app name. You might have to change your company name if you want to, but no, it's kind of unfortunate. We might have ways to also, yeah, I think that's like I would advise developers from like securing their keys when they start submitting, or do multi-sig, which is even better, because if you lose one, at least you have like other signals to create a new one or whatever.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I think you're muted, Chris.
Shoot, thank you very much. Yes, I was just saying that we have 8 minutes left for Q&A. I want to come here with a big question though. This is mostly for Android related. Everything, I think most of that you've shown is Android related. I've seen somewhere in the docs iOS being mentioned. How ready or how far out is an iOS implementation of any piece of this tech stack?
In terms of how far, that's hard to say. But what I would say is that the experience is going to look a little bit different. So iOS is a very closed source system, and Apple actually limits a lot the interaction that you can do between apps. And so because of that reason, the most probable thing we're going to release in the future, either through a community grant or we're going to build it in-house, is probably what you've seen at the end. So mobile web is going to work with mobile wallet adapter. Yeah. But so far, we haven't found a way to make native apps communicate with wallets and stuff like that. And so the best thing we can do is to provide what we call plugins to Safari, Chrome on iOS, so that the wallets are actually similarly to desktop web. You'll have like your Phantom plugin at the top, and that plugin is actually going to interact with the website, with the mobile websites. But what you've seen me doing with like interacting with native apps and stuff like that. Unfortunately, on iOS, we're pretty blocked, to be honest, at the moment.
Those can already use deep linking. This is the thing. Like local apps on iOS can already use deep linking. It's not the best, and that's not the best, but deep
It's
linking.
probably not the best. Yeah, for the reason I mentioned at first, deep linking is highly tailored towards one app, right? So you're gonna have to implement, even imagine as an app developer, that means you're gonna have to implement Phantom deep links and then Ultimate deep links and then Soulflare deep links. And then, so as a developer, it's gonna be more complicated. And as, so we're gonna see things that we're not super interested to see, like exclusive partnerships, you know, things like that we're not super fan of as Solana Mobile. And so we prefer to have like an open source protocol as well and an open protocol. That said, if we don't find any way to mimic what's happening on Android, which we think is a good experience, even if, again, there could be some improvements in terms of like number of interactions and stuff like that. But the open protocol is working well. It's working well for wallets. It's working well for dApps. And we would like to mimic that on iOS. So we are in the process of investing a bit more time internally at Solana Mobile on iOS right now, because we didn't have a lot of time. We're like a super small engineering team actually that works on SMS. Count like a handful of people of engineers, and so we haven't had the time in the past as much as we wanted to. Now we're going to invest a bit more to come in the next months. Again, it might not look like the Android experience, not at first at least, but maybe it's going to also make Apple change their way of thinking and stuff like that. So
we actually there's a follow-up question on that here that I got, is that it was asking about, will this experience, for example, like what you have in on a Saga that is mobile wallet adapter in Chrome, will that be available on any Android device with mobile wallet adapter with the apps? So basically, like if you have just go on Jupyter and Chrome on any Android device, you can just clickety-click in the browser and it goes to Phantom or Ultimate or Soulflare. Is that's how it works, right?
Yes, that's very correct. So the difference in between, again, Saga and other devices are these two green pieces. So what you'll find is that wallets on any Android device ask for your key, import your keys, and store it in a non-super secure environment. But if it's safe enough for you and you use it as a hot wallet, maybe that's enough for you. And so yes, mobile wallet adapter, the link between dApps and, the link between dApps and wallets is going to work on any Android device. The second piece is that dApps that you need to install, they have trouble submitting to the traditional stores. And so Texo, Jupyter, Dialect even, all these apps have trouble submitting to the traditional stores because every time they mention NFT or they mention transaction or stuff like that, the traditional stores wants to take a cut of that, and they got refused like either submissions or updates or stuff like that. And so the distribution channel, the Solana App Store, is one way for users to get trust, but it's also a way for Web3 developers to get easier submission and easier support for like their apps that are actually, that's something that Dialect commented on stage at the SF launch event, is that it's hard for a project to build already something that user will like building their roadmap and stuff like that. It's even harder if they can't be sure that what they are building is going to be accepted by the store they're going to publish to. And so that removes that burden for developers. And so that's the big advantage of Saga. But mobile wallet adapter, again, it's going to work on any Android device, being mobile web, native apps, everything.
Makes sense. Okay. I want to ask Ronnie to repeat his question here live, but before that, I have one question here from the audience. This is a quick one. Are there any grants, or is there a grant program for Solana Mobile specifically?
Yes, we have a 10 million fund dedicated to Solana Mobile. So actually quite a lot of grant power. We've given a few already in the ecosystem. For instance, the things I've shown, the Unity SDK and the Dart Flutter SDKs were built by these teams, and we gave them grants to do so. So either you're building like infrastructure for Solana Mobile, or you're building innovative products for Solana Mobile as well. Think like new usages and like innovations that are breakthrough and stuff like that. We are totally open to give grants for these use cases. And so please feel free to contact us either on Discord, Twitter, all these kind of channels. We'll put you in relationship. We actually hired very recently ecosystem growth lead who is leading all of these efforts. And so we are very excited about the community helping us build it. Because again, a handful of developers are actually working at Solana Mobile, and the community is like much bigger, much stronger, and they have use cases, like real use cases, right? We are trying to build using our knowledge of what's Web3, what users want, what developers want. But at the end of the day, the community is like something that we are really interested in leveraging as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, let me close up here because we're just finishing up on time. Let me close up here. Ronnie, if you still have the question, please hop on stage and just ask it. And if you don't, then, well, let's see. Ronnie, are you here still? Going for one. Ronnie cannot. Okay, thank you very much for letting us know, Ronnie. I would like to close out here. First of all, thank you very much, Olivier, for sharing this whole slew of alpha with us. I think this was very very useful for everybody to have this overview of this is how the tech stack works together. Again, there is a recording of this. We're recording this. It's going to go live on YouTube later tonight. Keep an eye on the Super Team Day at Twitter. We're going to post a link there, and then also in the Solana Mobile Discord. I have one question still. Olivier, how can people contact you if they have questions? How can they reach out? What's the best way to get your questions answered? Actually, Nick still has more questions. I feel like he has a whole slew of questions that he could talk to you about. So what is the best way to contact you?
So Nick can contact me on Slack because that's easier. But otherwise, if you're not on Twitter, my Twitter handle is the same as dialect Olivier. That's the way you pronounce my first name, because people couldn't. So I figured I should have a handle that makes sense. You can contact me directly. You can add me, follow me. But otherwise, one of the best ways still out in the public on Discord. Please reach out to us on Discord, because the discussions, the questions that you might have might be the same than 10 other people. And so if we can share that information publicly, that's even better for us, because other people might profit from the same answers and stuff like that. So best answer, Discord. Twitter works as well. Feel free, if it's private, let's say if it's a private matter, you have an ID you don't want to share, feel free to contact me on Twitter as well.
Yeah, cool. And that's discord.gg/Solana Mobile is the invite.
Yep.
Here. Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Olivier, again, for this great workshop. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. This is going to be the end of it. As Cash famously always says, you do not have to go home, but you cannot stay here. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.